Hey everyone, we're going to talk about what you need to hear and what you need to do if you are stuck in a rut. So we're already halfway through January 2020. I know a lot of you were feeling super motivated with the new year, right? It's going to be a whole new life and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people are already starting to lose that little bit of momentum and are starting to feel like, okay, now what? I'm back at work. I'm back into this job that is just kind of mediocre, that's just kind of paying the bills. That's not really what I want. You know, is this just going to be a repeat of the last few years? And am I just going to continue to do what I've been doing? So let me know below if you are in a rut right now. If that is you, there's no shame in admitting it. In fact, that is the first step of the process, to recognize I am not exactly where I want to be. I'm getting a bit stuck, so let us know below what's your situation. And obviously, if you have any questions as we go along, just let me know and then I can try to answer them. So if you're in some kind of a rut, and I hear this a lot, right, where people get to a certain stage in their lives where they're in a job that is not the dream, and yes, it pays good money, but it is not bringing them any joy, and it's just not what they want to be doing. Hey, Kristen, how's it going? Let us know if you're in any kind of rut, because we want to have actual experiences here. So what do you need to do? And so the first thing to recognize if this happens to you is that ruts aren't things that go away by themselves. And I know this sounds like a harsh thing to say, but if you start getting into a rut, that is something that could last for many years. It could last for the rest of your life. And I'm not saying that to try to be dramatic or to try to be drastic. I'm saying that because with what I do with helping people with their careers, I talk to a lot of people in a lot of different sectors, a lot of different careers who are dealing with a lot of different things. And I do talk to a lot of people who have been in ruts for a really, really long time. And none of those people, like the other day when I talked to someone who had been in a rut for the past decade of her life, obviously a decade earlier, she never was planning on still being in a rut 10 years later. Nobody plans on staying in a rut. So it's really, really important to know that ruts don't necessarily just go away by themselves unless you are actively working and taking steps to get out of the rut. And so the first big reason that people get into ruts, number one reason, is fear. Again, I hate talking about fear because it's another one of these kind of almost buzzwords where they're like, yeah, I know, I should just feel the fear and do it anyway, or I know I shouldn't be afraid and I should just be brave and go for what I really want and quit my job and, I don't know, go to Bali and start my digital nomadic business or whatever, right? But that's not realistic. And so a lot of times the fear is disguised as something else that might not look like fear. It might look like practicality. Like, well, I can't just quit my job. I have to pay my bills. I have to support my kids. I have to whatever. So I can't do that. And it sounds practical sometimes, but a lot of times it's actually just fear because nobody's telling you you have to quit your job. You could be doing other things, maintain that job, and then get a new, better job, which pays you even more. But fear is telling you that you just can't do anything because that's not realistic. So the first thing is just to recognize, like, what am I afraid of? What are the things that I'm stopping myself from doing just because of fear? Like, if I was afraid right now, what might fear be masquerading itself as? Because it's not necessarily going to, when you're in that rut, you're not necessarily going to feel any fear. It could be that it's just disguised as something else. And that can be disguised as so many different things. I don't know what it is specifically for you, but have a think. Sometimes it's that procrastination. I can't tell you how many people I talk to who are like, well, I have to admit, I've been pretty lazy these days, and I know I should be doing all these things, but I haven't really been taking action, and this and that. And a lot of times it's because there's fear there, and they haven't really gotten clear on what exactly that fear is, and so they haven't been able to do anything about it. So get clear on whether there might be some fears that are masquerading as something else, and then you can take an informed decision about, do I want to let this fear rule my life and keep me in this rut, or am I going to then feel the fear and do it anyway? Because once you know what the fear is, it's a lot easier to just ignore it and do what you need to do. And then the second really big reason people get into ruts is lack of clarity. So you might not be happy with where you are right now. You might be bored. You might feel like your job is pretty mediocre. But if you don't know what you want instead, like you don't know that actual goal, obviously you can't do anything about it and you're going to stay exactly where you are. So I see this a lot where people are going, well, yeah, my job is not the best, but it could be worse. But obviously, if the right opportunity comes along, I'm open. But who's going to just hand you this opportunity? Like the opportunity is not just going to walk over and say, hey, why don't you take me? If you don't have that clarity about what that opportunity actually is and you're not doing anything towards it. And I've talked to people who have been in the same job for 5, 10, even 20 years sometimes, and they're bored with it and they're telling me they're not really happy. But if the right opportunity comes along, they will take it. And if you're not mad about being in this rut, if being in this rut is okay for you, and if you're just waiting for an opportunity to come along, but you don't have that clarity about what you want instead, guess what? That rut, you're going to be like this person I talked to who was in that rut a decade later. That's going to be you. So you need to have that clarity. And the thing with clarity is that it doesn't just dawn on you one day. It's not like you wake up in the morning, well, generally speaking, you don't just wake up in the morning and go, I know, I've seen the light. I now know what my dream job is. Like, you don't usually have that moment of that epiphany without doing some upfront work. Sometimes it can appear in a moment like that, but usually it's because you've done this upfront work. So a lot of my clients, when they come to me, they're in this period of confusion and they're not sure what to do next. But the difference between them and people who stay in ruts for a really long time is they refuse to accept that. They're like, I cannot be one of these people who's feeling lost, who's not sure what to do next. I hate being someone who's like a procrastinator, who's not sure about the next step, who gets up in the morning and is like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, but I'm not sure. Like, they don't want to be that person. They know that's not them. And that's why they ask me for my help, so they can follow an actual sequence, an actual process to get that clarity, so they can start taking action, so they can get out of a rut and start having impact, having the money they want, having the careers that they want. So that is a major, major difference I see. Like, it takes work to get that clarity. I'll give you an example. This morning, I spent 2 hours writing in my agenda and in my planner and in my journal. I have so many planners and journals. I'll show you guys. I'm a little extreme, so I'm not saying you guys need all of this, but you see I have this agenda here where I plan my goals and whatnot for the year and the week and the day. Then I have this one that actually someone gave this to me. This is a daily planner, so I just plan my goals for the day. Then I have my journal where I just write down all my thoughts and I find my direction, another tool I use to find my direction. And recently, this is going to make some of you laugh, but I just ordered this moon journal so that I can also manifest everything I want in my life. And so it's just all these different ways of attaining goals. And this morning I spent 2 hours getting clarity, and yesterday I spent about 4 hours doing this. I realize that's a bit extreme. I'm not saying you guys have to spend quite that much time necessarily, but people who invest the time in getting clarity, they're the ones you see achieving all these great things. And so a lot of times it doesn't seem like a big deal to not be sure what you want. And you'll hear people, maybe it's you, who are really indecisive, and they're like, well, I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z, but maybe this, but maybe that, but we'll see, I don't know. And you're going to find those people floundering a lot through their lives. And the people you see who just seem like they always get what they want, they seem like they're attracting all these great things, and you're going, why are they so lucky? Why does that happen? It's because they have this clarity, and because they've probably done a lot of this upfront work. Like, most people don't know how much time I spend doing my goals and thinking about these things, and not just thinking about them. Like, I don't generally just sit there and think. I generally have processes that I go through and systems that helps me to find that clarity, find that alignment. It takes work. It takes some time. It's so much fun. It's such a great process. But yeah, it takes some investment, it takes some time. And so, and obviously I also work with various coaches and things like that. But that is why I've come to a place in my life where I understand how to know what I want. And I just had a conversation with one of my clients about an hour ago. We were discussing this, where when he started the program, he was one of these people with very creative, lots of different ideas, not sure exactly what it was that he wanted to do. And when we just talked, like he seemed like a different person because he had this clarity. And that is the kind of transformation I'm talking about. Going from someone who's not sure what they want to do, lots of ideas, but I don't know, going from there to being like, this is what I do. And that makes a totally different person from the confused person. And so it's really, really important that you have a process in place, that you know how to do this, because once you start that systematically getting that clarity, you're going to learn how to separate what you really want from things that are just kind of something that society wants from you, or something that you thought you should do because of society, or something that seemed practical because of various fears that are there. And then once you get that clarity and everything is set into motion, that's where you start getting all these opportunities. People start seeing you as the specialist and all of that other great stuff that everyone's always asking me, how do I do that? How can I make that happen for myself? So if you guys feel like you're stuck in a rut right now, I really feel for you. I've been there before. That's exactly what I help my clients with. They're mostly every single one of them was in a rut when they first came to me. So that is really what I deal with. If that is something that you want solved and you don't want to stay in that rut anymore, send me a message and I'll see whether I can help you. If you're okay with being in a rut, again, this sounds a little bit weird, but if you're fine with being in a rut, don't bother messaging me, because it's really a decision. And being in a rut, there are people who stay in ruts and there are people who refuse to get into ruts. We can all get into ruts in our life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what happens. But there are really two types of people. There are the people who are going, hey, if an opportunity comes along, I'm not that happy right now with where I am. It's not the ideal, but something comes along, fine. There are those people who are just like interested in a better career. And then there are the people who are absolutely committed to finding that alignment, figuring out what it is they want and doing it. So if you're someone who's really committed to that, but you are in a rut right now, you need to get yourself out of it, send me a message and we'll figure out what it is that you need to do. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next video. Let me know what questions you have about this. I know that being in a rut, it's something that happens to all of us. So it's really, really important to have the tools to get out of it. Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. We've had quite a few people on here, which is really, really cool. I'll see you next time.